we'll introduce ourselves and get started. And you said you teach third grade, right? Awesome. All right. Well, my name is Karen Balbier. I'm an instructional technology specialist, and I serve 9 elementary campuses here on the west side. Your ITS is Earl Yeager, and he serves our non-titled campuses. And I'm going to toss it over to one of my colleagues here.
Hi, my name is Laura, and I'm also an ITS. I serve 9 elementary campuses in the central area of town. Good to meet you.
And my name is Jesus Morales, and I serve kind of a mix. I serve mostly Southside elementary campuses, but I do have 4 campuses on the west side. I have both Mesitas, Dr. Green, and the new Murphy Pre-K. Welcome.
So today we're going to get to know your Mac a little bit. We know that our teachers just received their brand new Macs. Well, some of them, not everybody has received their Mac yet. And then hearing from you in third grade, of course, your students have received their Mac as well. So this should hopefully work in perfect harmony because the operating systems should be the same. I like to call Apple Classroom a teacher's best friend because, you know, with flexible seating and students sitting in a lot of different places around your classroom, it's hard to see all of their screens. And this is a tool that will definitely help with the workflow of your classroom, the ability for you to maybe airdrop a file to your students, to view all of their little screens, to hide an app if you need to get their attention, or even lock the screen of a student if you need to redirect them and help them get back on track. So there's a lot of supports for you as a teacher, which I really love. And so I feel like it really helps you to help your class be where they need to be with their learning. So with that, I do have a video that I'm going to share with you guys. I want you to know that this is an old video. So like it's what Apple Classroom used to look like, but Apple Classroom does all of the same things. The icons are just in a different place. And so I'm going to play this for you, and then we'll talk a little bit about how do we get started in our district, okay?
Introducing Classroom, your new teaching assistant, available on iPad and Mac. Classroom is made just for teachers to help you oversee the work your students are doing, guide them through lessons, and manage their iPads.
Good morning, class.
Getting started with Classroom is easy. Just download the app, create a new class, give it a name, and invite your students to join. Students accept the invitation right from their iPad. That's it. Or your school may have already set up classes for you. You can see which students are online, the apps they open, and who's using each app.
All right, I've got something really cool to share with you today.
In Classroom, share content with your students to get them excited about a new lesson. iOS makes it easy to multitask. Directly from the Files app in the dock, just drag and drop presentations or reading materials to your students. You can even share a website by simply dragging a URL from Safari. The website opens instantly on every student's iPad, so they can dig in and start learning.
Cool, right? Okay, for the next activity, you'll be working in groups.
You can easily start student activities with apps. Simply select the app you want, and even keep students in the app by locking it. Then just click Open. The app opens at the same time on each student's iPad, so they can start creating and learning.
Remember, if you have any questions, I'm right here.
Keep track of the work students are doing right from your iPad or Mac. Students can share files and links with you at any time. When you're ready to review, just tap or click to open them. And when you're done, return back to Classroom. Need to see what your students see? With Screen View, you can look at all your students' iPad screens in real time. Tap any student's screen to get a closer look at their work. While you're watching, student iPads will show a blue indicator in the status bar, letting them know that you're ready to help.
Hey everybody, check this out.
If your class has Apple TV, you can quickly showcase students' work as it's happening. With AirPlay seamlessly integrated into Classroom, a student's iPad screen can be projected and shared with peers. Sharing student work is a fun and easy way to build confidence and celebrate success. As you get ready to wrap up your class, you can lock each student's iPad to get everyone's attention.
All right, everybody, let's wrap up for today.
When you end the class session, A class summary provides an overview of your student's activity during class, like the apps used, items shared with you, and how each student spent their time. With Classroom as your new teaching assistant, you're free to focus on teaching, so your students can focus on learning.
So as I mentioned, that is an older video. So Apple Classroom is available on the Mac, which is great. So I know it referred to iPad over and over again. There are some differences though. I do want you to know that on an iPad, you can lock students into an application. On a Mac, you cannot lock them into an application, but you can send them to an application, and that's a really great support, especially if you have one or two students that have a very difficult time navigating, or you know it's going to take more time than it needs to, then you can just send them straight to that app. I am in the belief that I do want my students to be able to navigate their computer and get to those apps on their own. And so it's not something that I typically do. But in kindergarten, oh yeah, sometimes it's just worth it. So really get to know your students and know whether it's a support they need or something that they can definitely do on their own autonomously. I'm going to just tell you the way that we can do this with Magic is by using our managed Apple IDs. Did you guys know that we actually have an EPISD Apple ID for each of our students and teachers here in EPISD? No? Okay, so you don't need to sign into your new Apple computer with a personal account. You can actually sign in with an EPISD email address and password. And the advantage to that is that you're going to keep anything personal separate. The other advantage is when your students sign in, it can be backing up and saving some of the things that they're creating onto their MacBook. And also the other advantage to signing into their Apple managed ID, their EPISD managed ID, is that it'll change the little profile photo when they enter their computer from the golf ball to maybe their Memoji. So I want to take you guys through how to do that. But before I do, when I'm getting started with Apple Classroom with students, I like to let them know what we're doing. And it's really up to you what your approach is. But I do want to share my approach is that I want to let the students know that I'm going to be working. Well, first, I get them signed into the managed Apple ID and I don't talk about Classroom. But after, I make sure that I'm letting them know that we're going to be using a tool called Apple Classroom. And it's because they're students in my class. And then I let them know that I'm going to be able to see their screens and what they're doing. And that we're going to use that capability to share their learning. And so if somebody's doing something great, especially in the first weeks, try to call out and share. And when you're viewing a screen, use it as a positive thing. Like, look at what so-and-so is doing. Will you share and teach the class so that it doesn't start off as my teacher is spying on me so they can see everything that I'm doing wrong. I really like Classroom to be one of those things where they understand that it's there for their learning, right? It's there so that we can help each other in the classroom, but also on the other end, if someone is off task, I can do my job as a teacher and help them get back on track, right? And so those are the supports. So just really make sure that they don't feel like I've now turned on Classroom and it's a punishment for all. It's to help us continue the learning in the classroom and accomplish all of those goals that we have. Okay, so to get started, this is what I would suggest is the day one. I wouldn't try to do everything in one day because it's a lot, but on day one, I would say it's really important for you to sign into your managed Apple ID and then maybe have your students sign in. In third grade, that could take 20 minutes, you know, and so really think about when do you have a chunk of time to have your students sign into this account and where you could give them maybe 5 to 10 minutes to create their Memoji because it's kind of exciting. It's an exciting thing to do. So you'll start off in the system preferences. So it could be the Apple up in the top left-hand corner, and then you would head over to system preferences. When you do that, you're going to see that there's a space for you to sign into an Apple ID. When you do, you click sign in, and you're going to get to a screen that looks like this, okay? When you do sign in, you're going to use your EPISD email address. For your students, they use their username and then the @episd.org behind it. And so for third grade, they're not accustomed to doing that all the time. So that @ symbol is new to them. And then they'll add the remaining part, the episd.org. When they sign in, it's going to show them that this is Apple ID for El Paso Independent School District. So that's how you know that they did it correctly or that you did it correctly. Sometimes if a password appears right away, then I know, oh, they forgot the @episd.org or something. It's not in the right place. And so by seeing that El Paso Independent School District piece, you know that they're on that right path. Okay. So when they click this continue button, then it's going to bring up that Microsoft login, that login that they're used to. So I tell them, work or school, where are you? We're at school. Okay. So we're going to sign into the school account. We don't sign into our personal account. It's really important that we keep our school stuff school and our personal stuff personal. So they'll sign into their school account. And then of course they'll see this. It really doesn't matter if they click yes or no, because Apple, I check the box and I click yes. And in 3 months, Apple probably will want me to re-verify. And so just know that if all of your students plop off and you can't view them anymore, it's a sign to go back into system preferences and just check to see if they need to re-sign in. Okay. All right. Once they finally make it in, they should see, I call it a blank human, but they'll see a blank human. It's like a little shadow of a human here. And they can click that edit button. And then on their new computers, they'll get this view where they can select an emoji, or if they click this plus sign, it'll open up to a place where they can design their own avatar. And so if you do have 5 to 10 minutes, most students really enjoy taking the time to customize their Memoji, and they feel so special. And then when they go back to their lock screen, typically it'll sync with that profile photo when they're logging into their computer. So it's a little bit of a customization piece. So that's what I recommend doing on day one. Once they're finished, there is a little save and done, and then that will update for them. And the reason I say take this in several days, like just get them signed in. It's an exciting thing. And then that gives enough time for everything to kind of sync within our servers and so forth. Okay. For you as a teacher, after you signed into your managed Apple ID, it's a good idea to head on over to self-service and you'll install the classroom application. Okay. So on your teacher computer, or if you're using an iPad, you can do this on an iPad as well. You want to download that. Again, a little bit of wait time. So once you've signed in, you download it. If you wait, I would say 20 to 30 minutes, it gives time for everything to sync. And then when you launch Classroom for the first time, you're actually going to see that you have classes already preloaded, all of the EPISD classrooms or classes that you teach. The problem is when you click inside of a class, and I encourage you to do this, click inside of your attendance, click inside of your homeroom, click inside of your math, whatever you teach, you're going to notice that you only have a fraction of your students. They don't all exist in there for some reason, okay? And so I recommend creating a class and adding all of your students to that class, okay? So got slides here for you. So basically day 2 or week 2 or whenever you feel like you have the energy for it, you're going to create your class and you're going to launch it and just see what happens, okay? Because your kids are already logged in, you're already logged in, you're just going to create it and see what happens. Don't have the pressure of feeling like I need to get every single student in today. Just see what happens, click, explore, and kind of get used to it, okay? So if you're using your teacher MacBook, you're going to be on Monterey, the operating system, and your students will be, so this should work pretty well. Okay, so how do you create a class?
I was going to say, I do have a question. So because I had used it before, when I tried to look at my students' self-service, they didn't have the option for Classroom. So once they sign in with their Apple ID, will that pop up on self-service?
Oh, so the students don't install Classroom. In fact, they don't have to do anything except for they have to log into their managed Apple ID. Okay. So what's going to happen in the background, what's happening is behind the scenes, it sees that they are who they are logged into that computer, and it automatically shakes a hand. So it makes them join your class. So there's no invite code or there's nothing that they need to do. They're just automatically in the class that you created once everything syncs. So you don't have to ask them permission. Can I see your screen? Because within the way we have things set up in our district, they don't have a choice. Okay. So where they're going to see it is if you take them over to, let me see if I can find the slide. If you take them over to this screen, so system preferences, classroom will appear down here, somewhere here. And so they don't have to install anything, but once they're signed into their managed Apple ID, they're going to see classroom down here. And if they click on it, they'll see all of the classes that they are enrolled in. So all of the classes that were pre-populated by the district, and then the one that you created will be there. Okay. Thank you for asking that question. That's a pretty important one. Okay, so there's two ways to create a class. The easiest way is from within Classroom when you launch it. The second way, and I'm going to ask Laura or Jesus to drop this link into the chat real quick, is to go the manual way. And so today I was working with the 3rd grade class, and it wasn't letting us create the class for some weird reason. So because we were in a time crunch and we only had 1 hour together, I had her go to the plan B. And so Jesus or Laura, will you type school.apple.com and place that into the chat? So this is the way that you're going to create the class from your computer. It's the easiest way to do it. But if something is happening and you can't actually create the class here, and we've waited the 20 minutes from the time that you've signed in, then I would recommend a plan B of school.apple.com. And you can contact one of us and we'll be happy to walk you through, or I can see if I have a video on how to set that up. So I'm hoping the easy way works for you. Okay. So here's a little profile. By the way, I'm going to skip over the next slide with the profile because I couldn't find a great way to customize it. But you're going to see that there is a button to create your class here. And then there's a plus sign to create a class here. But you will see some created classes across the top once you get in. Okay. Okay. Once you click the Create Class button, you're going to see that you can title the name of your class. And so think about what class you're okay with your students seeing. I think I call mine Mrs. Balbier 4th grade. And then the next important piece is right underneath it. It says location. You are assigned to the location in which you're teaching. And so when you click on the location button, the name of the campus you teach at will appear. And you're going to need to select that in order to find your students. Okay. And then you want to select an icon and then select a color. And then you'll press that done button to be able to create your class. When you do click location, sorry, I forgot about this screen here, you're going to choose your school. I'm enrolled at 3 campuses. And so I asked to be enrolled at Ornado so I could use my son as my guinea pig account. So I'm a teacher at Ornado, even though I'm not a teacher at Ornado. So I selected Ornado as my option. Okay. All right. Okay. And so then it's going to give you your first class, or like I said, you're going to have probably 9 of these, and then the 1 class that you created. Okay. When you're ready to, you can edit the class. Do you guys have a need to add a secondary teacher to your class?
Yes, I have a co-teacher.
Okay. So you're going to want to make sure that you edit that class. So you'll click edit. Okay. And then you're going to see that, well, this X is to remove, like delete the class, but you'll see there's 3 dots, and that will give you the option to edit your class. Okay. And this is where you can add a teacher. So if you want to add another teacher, you're going to click right here on teachers. And then you'll be able to add a teacher to the class. Let me see if I have my fake teacher. I added, so I clicked on teachers and I added Melissa Aguilar as a teacher at Ornado. So you can have a co-teacher. So the nice thing is that other teacher doesn't have to create the class. They'll automatically see it when they sign into their Managed Apple ID, install Classroom, and they can launch it or they can kind of view it with you at the same time. Okay.
Ms. Rodriguez, you had a question? No. Oh, I thought you raised your hand.
I was going to say, I do have a follow-up question to that. My co-teacher is in several classrooms within the 3rd grade alone. So if she's within all of our classrooms, will she just be able to select whichever classroom she's in at that time?
Yes, yes. And so if I'm far away from the classroom, I'm not really going to be able to connect with the students. So they need to be in Bluetooth range. Okay. So for example, if a student is at home and you're here at school, they're still going to appear offline because they won't be in your range. Jesus is saying about 30 feet. Okay. Yeah. But basically the students that they will see are the students that they want to support, that they're within that range. So yes. Okay. So then you want to make sure that you do add the teacher, and then you can back out and then make those changes. So again, it'll just share that you have 2 teachers sharing that same class. Okay. All right. Then once you're finished editing, don't forget to click that done button. And then you have at least the class set up, but we're going to need to add our students. So when you tap into that class, so you click on the class, it's going to drop you in. And the very first time you're creating a class, you want to make sure that you click the Add Students button so you can add students. Today, like I said, I think it was glitchy because I didn't wait 20 minutes from after the teacher signed in and I installed my classroom. Because like I said, it takes a little bit of time for all of the information to come down. What should happen when you click Add Students is that you should be able to type the name of your students, and all of the students at the campus you're teaching at will populate. So for me, I typed in my son's name, Ethan, and I saw all of the Ethans, and I was able to add Ethan Belbier. So then I check off the box or the circle, click the X, type the next name of the student, check off that student, type the next name of the student. So you can type all 20, however many students you have, and then once you're finished, you'll click the Add button. Do be careful if you have any students with common names, just to make sure that that is the username, because you'll see their username as well. So underneath Ethan Belbier is Ethan's username. So I would be able to confirm that that is in fact the correct student that I'm adding to my classroom. And you can always remove a student if needed as well. Okay. All right. So again, I didn't have 20 students to tinker with. I only had 1. So I signed my son into my iPad, and this is how I was able to tinker with it. So immediately when you open the class and they're dropped in, you're going to see that they're all offline. So that's why I said day 1, just launch the class and see what happens. Like, don't have any high expectations. Just let it go and be like stress-free. By the way, I just circled create groups because I was looking for this in the new feature, or this new Apple Classroom view, and I couldn't find it until the very end after I created this presentation. So I don't have the how to create groups, but that's where you can create groups. So if you want to airdrop just to one group of students instead of the entire class, you can set up groups there. Okay, so then when you sit back and you're just watching, hopefully you'll see that a device or 2 or 4 or all or 3/4 of them will start authorizing. And so that's the magic. I'm like, yes, it's authorizing. It's doing what it needs to do. Okay. But some of them will still stay offline. Okay. And if they're on offline and maybe day 3, you have them go in and you look and you're like, okay, they're still offline. Then we know we might need to shut down the computer and restart it. Then we might know that, maybe we need to double check if they're really signed into their Manage Apple ID. And then as we were mentioning, you do need to be in Bluetooth range. So guess what else needs to be turned on? Bluetooth. And so some students will turn off Bluetooth, and so it's not on. In middle school, it seems like they all have it on because they're using Bluetooth headphones these days. And so Bluetooth does need to be on as well. Okay. There's some little troubleshooting things that will happen. And then hopefully they'll make the connection. When they make the connection, you'll probably see an application, or on the Mac, you're going to see 10 applications. That's usually what it looks like. It's a whole bunch of applications stacked on top of them. And that means that's every single application that they've opened up and is still running on their computer. And so when I see 10 applications are running, sometimes I'll go over and I try to teach them, because they're learners right now. Any of those apps that you're not using, let's go ahead and quit out of so that it's not taking up or running out. The battery isn't draining as quickly as it needs to be. Okay. So in this case, that iPad was in system preferences, and that's what it's showing me. Okay. Okay. Yeah, let me go over a couple of these little things, and then I'm going to pop into some videos. So up here at the top, there are symbols, and this is what looks new. This little button will actually allow you to open up applications on a computer. And so for me, because I was using an iPad, you're seeing the iPad view. As a teacher, you're going to see things like Keynote, Google Chrome. And so if you need to, you can force open an application on the student's device. This right here, the lock in an app after opening, you're only going to see it for iPads. You're not going to see it for a Mac unless something updated last night and I didn't know about it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you because I screen recorded my teacher Mac and my student device. So I'm going to end the slideshow and I'm going to stop sharing for just, well, let me share my screen now. There we go. So I'm hoping you see my screen and I have 2 videos for you. And I'm hoping that these will work well. Yesterday, I tried to show them both at the same time and I had a hard time. So I'm gonna try to show you what it looked like when I was recording the side by side because it's hard to show you both at the same time. And so this is the teacher device. So I'm in Classroom on this side and I'm actually in a website in Google Chrome on this side. And so my goal was to airdrop the link to the student. So I'm going to go really slow and just kind of show you how that would happen. Let me just press play. I think my scrolling is not a good idea. Let's see if it'll. Okay. Is it playing? It is. I probably should have put the commentary over it, but basically if you want to airdrop, you'll grab that little lock and you'll click and drag it on top of the student device and it should open. This little icon here is showing me that the student is in Safari and so it's working. Okay. Okay, this little icon over here shows the screen of the device. So if you click on it, you're going to be able to see the screen. So here's the screen showing that the kid needs to log into Discovery Education. On the teacher side, and I know that went fast, I clicked on the view so that I could view the screen of the student because I actually airdropped it a link called Orbit Integers from Discovery Education, and it's a game where you can just practice adding integers together or play together. So let me pause real quick. And so these different icons will allow you to do different things. So this one is open an application. This one is if you have bookmarks saved in your Safari, you can send a student to a website. But again, my preference is to have the website and just drag it onto my students for an airdrop. This icon will let you view all of your students' screens. The eyeball, which you think would let you view your student's screen, it doesn't. It hides every single app on their computer. So it takes them to a screen that looks like this. So when you click that eyeball, it hides everything and they just see their screen. So it's a good way to kind of get their attention quickly. Okay. Sorry. I gotta go back to that video. Here it is. And then the lock locks the screen of their iPad. This button mutes their iPad. And so when you're controlling up here, you're controlling the whole class. And when you click in on one student, you're controlling just one student. And when you have your group set up, if you click on a group, then you'll be controlling the group. So it takes a little bit of practice. But like I said, if you on day 3 or 2, right, you're just waiting to see what happens and you try it out with a student or the whole class and kind of let them know that you're tinkering with it, there won't be any surprises there. Let me show you the student device really quick. This one is much shorter, and I'll just walk you through what I was doing on my teacher side. So I started recording the screen of the iPad just to show you. So in this case, I had just airdropped the link to Discovery Education game, the integer game, so that it could be practiced. So it had already opened up on the student device. And then I realized I have to click sign in because the student wasn't signed in. Once I clicked sign in Class Link, it began to open up the game. And so I was able to click the view and view the screen of the student, but this is what's happening on the student screen. And then at the end, when I wanted to lock the device, and so respectfully, typically I'll tell students you have about 1 more minute before we transition, and then I'll be locking your devices. I give them a heads up because they tend to take that a lot better than you just locking their screen without notification. And so they tend to be like, oh no, and they're trying to work really fast, but they're not angry when it's locked. But I do tell my students, if I catch you off track, I may lock your screen, but we don't need to make a big deal about it. You're just going to walk over to me and we'll just have a quick little conversation, or I'll unlock it and you know that I'm watching you and I need you to get back on track. And so maybe have some type of code where if your screen is locked and they know, then they know what they need to do and that they need to get back on track. And so for those students that are off track, I don't announce it. I might just lock it so that they give me their eyes and they know why they've been locked and they know to get back on track. Do you guys have any questions so far? No? All right. I'm going to stop sharing one more time just to go back into this view of my presentation that I have for you. And then I'll press play from this current slide. Okay, so another powerful piece is, and again, using some of those different workflows as you're going through your class. If you do need students to airdrop to you or you want to airdrop to them, that's available, but it's not available for students without the classroom. And so they can't airdrop back and forth between students, but when you have classroom turned on, you can airdrop to them and they can airdrop to you as a teacher. So I do want you to know if they airdrop to you, you're going to see little files here, and you'll be able to download a file or view a file from this little icon. Okay. All right. So that one, I just wanted to make sure that you knew of. You also get low battery notifications as well. And there we go. This is where you go to end the class. And so there's no end button, but it's important to end the class. And that gives you a little bit of data about what's been happening during that lesson or while students are in centers working on their computers. So when you click these three dots, you're going to see end class, and then you'll get to a screen that looks like this. It's going to look a lot different when you have 20 students. I only had one, but in this case, it showed all of the applications that were used during the duration of the time I had my class open. It showed everything that was airdropped to me, a slice of bacon. I can't recall what this is, but those were airdropped to me as a teacher. And then it shows me all of the students that joined that were in the class. If you click on a student's name, you can drill down deeper and you're going to see exactly what applications they were in, and you can see how much time they spent in each application. So for example, if my goal was for the students to play that Space Invader integer game, then I should see that most of the time should have been spent here in Safari. And so if that was the case, then I would know that they were on track most of the time. Sometimes I'll see like a little blip. Oh, they hopped into Chrome really quick, but they hopped right back out. And that's not a big deal. That 28 seconds was there and then they quit out, right? I spent a little bit of time in ClassLink, which makes sense. And so that just kind of gives you a little breakdown of where they spent their time. And you'll also be able to tell if they were on task during that duration of the class. Right. And lastly, the troubleshooting. So on day 4, hopefully after we've had kids shut down their computer, most of your class should be in. If you do need to, you can contact one of your instructional technology specialists if you need a little bit of, I don't want to say like one-on-one, but maybe someone to stop by and help figure out why maybe a student or 2 students may not be connecting to your classroom. One thing that I usually have double check my troubleshooting is to make sure that they're signed into their managed Apple ID. Sometimes I'll have them sign out and sign back in. So that's one of my troubleshooting mechanisms, is just like, let's just see if that will work. Signing out and then signing back in. I do always check to make sure that they are on EPISD secure. I feel like most of those little issues have been worked through now that testing is happening. But there is a chance that a student device might be first connecting to EPISD guest and then connecting to EPISD deploy instead of EPISD secure. So just check to make sure that their device is connecting to EPISD secure. Another troubleshooting item that you might want to check for is that their Bluetooth is turned on. If students know that the Bluetooth has to be turned on, those would be like younger siblings of middle school students. They'll know that. Then they might say, if you don't want your teacher to see it, you're just going to turn off Bluetooth. And so if that's the case, and it seems to be that one student's Bluetooth is off all the time, then I make sure that I set that as an expectation with that student. Every time you're in my class, every time we're using our computers, my expectation is your Bluetooth will always be on. Okay. I don't tell them all because I feel like they'll, some of them will just mess with me just to do it. So I wait to see if it's an issue, and then I just address it with that one student individually. Another thing that you could do to troubleshoot is just ask your student to restart. And the last thing is to check for security updates. We don't like our students to update their computers, right? Their operating systems, but I'm going to show you what a security update looks like. I feel like a couple of us on our ITS team have shared what a security update looks like. But I do have a document in the event that you feel like I want to document, and I don't know if Jesus or Laura happen to have the security update file that they can drop in the chat, or possibly our SMORE, because I think we have it in one of our newsletters. So a security update would be if you hit the Apple and you go to System Preferences. And I don't tell the students to do this, I just kind of like go and check it out myself. When you go to Software Update, even for ourselves, you're going to see that there's that Mac Ventura upgrade. Well, we don't want to upgrade the operating system, which is why I don't tell the students to do it, because they just click on upgrade now instead of listening to me. What we want to look for is we want them to stay in Monterey for now. Is underneath it, it says other updates are available. So when they click more info, and I just saw this yesterday, I actually have an update for my Mac Monterey, which is the operating system I'm on. And it's a whole 1.5 gigabyte update. That's kind of big, but it tells you that it's a security, there's security fixes in there. And so it's an important update for me to install for Monterey to keep my computer safe. And so that's something that I should go ahead and install. So we recommend making sure that they just complete the security update at least. The Safari one is fine, but usually that will also fix it. If there is some type of glitch with Apple Classroom, that security update usually fixes it. Okay. I know that was a lot, but really it's just something that like you want to take your time with, get the kids signed in to manage Apple ID, make sure you're signed in, and then just create that classroom and try it out and see what happens. Thank you guys so much. If once you're finished, you're welcome to sign off, and we really appreciate you joining us after school to learn a little bit about your work.